Well, good afternoon, DEC members and guests. Happy Tuesday. It's a pleasure to have you with us today. I'm Steve Gregorian, President and CEO of the Detroit Economic Club, coming to you from beautiful downtown Detroit, where the Detroit River looks gorgeous in the March sunshine. A couple of quick announcements before we get started. We do want to take a brief moment to thank the terrific DEC sponsors for their continued support of our mission, and you are seeing these companies on your screen. March and April at the DEC has something for everyone, so be sure to get your tickets for some upcoming events. If you're a March Madness fan, and who isn't, join us next Thursday, March 25th, when we host ESPN bracketologist Joe Lunardi for some March Madness fun. And in April, we're hosting Sunil Gupta on his new book, Backable, and former GE CEO Jeff Immelt on his new book, Hot Seat. So we hope you can get those on your calendar and join us if your schedule permits. You already know how important it is to the DEC that high school and college students are included in everything we do. And today we want to say welcome to students from all over Southeast Michigan, 6 universities, 4 high schools, too many to name like I normally do, but I do have to call out the best and brightest students in all the land, and that would be my Britons from Albion College. But it's truly a pleasure to be joined by students from all 10 schools today. Welcome, students. The DEC has an incredible history of speakers, and our speaker today joins a distinguished list of 18 other speakers who in our 87-year history have addressed the DEC on this day, March 16th. And that list includes 1964 World War I flying ace Captain Eddie Rickenbacker, and in 1983, U.S. Secretary of Treasury Donald Regan. And you might recognize the presiding officer today, none other than Lee Iacocca. And today we're pleased to add Cheryl Sandberg as our 19th speaker on this day in DEC history. So let's get started. A very special guest speaker today, Cheryl Sandberg, is the Chief Operating Officer at Facebook, where she oversees the firm's business operations. Prior to Facebook, Cheryl held C-suite and executive positions at Google, the U.S. Treasury Department, McKinsey, and the World Bank. She holds a BA summa cum laude from Harvard University and an MBA with the highest distinction from Harvard Business School. You already know Cheryl is also an accomplished best-selling author and the founder of leanin.org. And we are so delighted Cheryl can join us today from California. So let's say hello and welcome Cheryl Sandberg to Detroit.
Steve, thank you for having me. I first got to visit the Detroit Economic Club when I was a young staffer at the Treasury Department in the Clinton presidency. So we know now how old I am. But it's a treat to be back. And actually, I think the big thing that got canceled for me when coronavirus happened was my trip in person. It's taken us, now we're rescheduling via Zoom, but this marks for me a year of coronavirus. And while I'm sad not to be there in person, I'm really happy to be with you today and grateful you invited me. Thank you, Steve.
The pleasure is all ours, and we are going to have you back in person someday soon. So welcome again. And our moderator today is a familiar voice to all. Vicki Thomas is the City Beat reporter at WWJ News Radio 950, where she also hosts the Black Business Minute. She's the first ever Black woman in radio broadcasting in the Michigan Journalism Hall of Fame. She's a great friend of the DEC and a better friend to me. Let's say hello to Vicki Thomas.
Wow, thank you so much, Steve. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm really excited to be part of the conversation today.
Well, it's great to have you both here. We've got a lot to cover, so Vicki, take it away.
Well, Cheryl, welcome to Detroit virtually. It was definitely great speaking with you last week, so I'm excited to continue the dialogue today with the DEC group that has joined us virtually. And let's jump right into it. And I certainly don't have to tell you that this pandemic has devastated small businesses across the country, across the globe, and certainly here in Detroit. How has Facebook helped small businesses during this challenging time in our history?
Well, Vicki, thank you for interviewing me today and for being such a strong and supportive voice of business, of women, of all things in Detroit. I mean, we're in the middle of an unprecedented health crisis, an economic crisis, a crisis for gender inequality, and a crisis for small business. Businesses around the country, around the world have been forced to close. People have had to completely rethink how they did their business, try to keep the lights on, keep paying their employees. And we know that small businesses are the very heart of their community. So when small businesses are hit, communities are hit. Now at Facebook, we are a big business, but our business is small business. We have 200 million small businesses using our free tools, 10 million small businesses that rely on our advertising products. And so our whole business is helping small businesses. Now, this crisis hit small businesses hard. Before coronavirus, a third of US small businesses had no online presence or mobile site at all. Most small businesses are local. They serve customers. When everything shut, businesses had to pivot online. And we're proud of the support we offered. It's really hard to set up a mobile website or build a mobile app. If you're a small business, resources are tight. You are usually doing what you do. You are not a website designer. That's not the business you're in. You are a baker or a yoga studio or an artist or selling wine, any number of small businesses, but website design is probably not your thing. But on Facebook, you can set up a Facebook page or an Instagram business profile in minutes. You already know how to do it and it's free. And that's what we saw small businesses did. So we focused on helping small businesses get online and stay online. We focused on giving training. We trained 100 million small businesses since 2020 alone. We've trained 1 million small business women through our She Means business. And then we really focused on giving support to keep the lights on. We gave out $100 million in grants when coronavirus first hit. 40% of that was for the United States. And it was the cities we call home, the cities where our employees are that are part of our community. And Detroit was certainly a big part of that.
And one thing that Facebook also did, Cheryl, was created programs to assist Black-owned small businesses. Steve mentioned the Black Business Minute. We highlight Black businesses 3 times a week. And the reason why I started that is because I heard statistics that said 40 to 50% of Black-owned small businesses will not survive the pandemic. So talk about the programs that you created for those to help throw them a lifeline and why you wanted to do that.
So Vicki, you're exactly right. Black-owned small businesses have been closing at 2 times the rate of other small businesses during coronavirus. And those are Black-owned businesses that serve communities of color. Black communities are, no matter who owns them, are also closing at higher rates. So in addition to the $100 million grant program we did when coronavirus started, we did an additional $100 million for Black-owned small businesses, creators, nonprofits in the US alone. Of that, $20 million was for community foundations, and $1 million of that went to the Community Foundation for Southeast Michigan. Again, this is a community we call home. But we tried to do more. Our employees really wanted to do more to help Black communities and Black-owned small businesses. So 2 of our employees in our marketing team came up with an idea we loved called Buy Black Friday. So I think everyone knows what Black Friday is, right? It's the Friday after Thanksgiving where people start their holiday shopping. This was hashtag Buy Black Friday. So buy on Black Friday from Black-owned businesses. We gave businesses an opportunity to self-identify. I'm a Black-owned business. We created a gift guide and we created a Buy Black Friday show, and with 15 million people that tuned in. We also have a really deep commitment to train Black and Latinx small business owners. We've committed to reaching 1 million people. But what really matters is what happens on the ground. So I started my morning, since I wasn't able to be in Detroit, I met with 9 local Detroit small businesses, 8 of which are owned by women. 1 man, we were glad to have him there. Almost everyone there was a person of color, a woman of color. And I heard the most amazing stories. So Regina runs the House of Pure Vin. She's from Detroit, Regina Gaines. And her business was very local. Her wine store was more than a store. She created in-store experiences for people to come, and then they bought wine. And that was how her business worked. So when coronavirus hit, She couldn't have those in-store experiences that were driving her business. So she moved them online. She moved them to Instagram, and she was interviewing winemakers and running cooking classes and giving people those experiences. And this is what's amazing. Her business is up this year.
Right.
Business is up this year. So what do we believe? We believe when we give small businesses the tools, when we give small businesses the assistant, they aren't going to just survive, they're going to thrive. And that is going to make communities like Detroit continue to thrive.
And can you share a couple of other stories? We talked to Regina Gaines. She was featured on Black Business Minute this past Monday. And listening to the business owners during your roundtable this morning was incredible. They shared some of their challenges and whatnot. So talk a little bit more about some of the things, local examples of Detroit businesses that Facebook has helped, some of those stories.
Oh, I would love to. I mean, one of my favorite stories was LaAsia Johnson. She runs a local company called Ella J Essentials, all natural skincare. She called it smell goods.
Right.
Things that smell good that you want. Now, her story is amazing. She was diagnosed with eczema and Crohn's disease, and all the products didn't work for her. She was breaking out. They had toxic things in them. And so she opened a retail store and it was successful. And then coronavirus hit. So she had to close. So she really pivoted online, and she did it in a really creative way. She created a Facebook community called The Garden. She has over 1,100 people in her community. You heard her talk about it this morning. She calls them her sunflowers. And from those people, she gets her product ideas. She gets her product name. She gets to talk about fragrances. And what she said to us, Vicki, was that she's a sole proprietor. And that's really lonely. She was like, do you like this color palette? I don't know, right? So she had those people. And she said when she builds the products that are suggested by that group, those products are flying off the shelves faster than she can put them on. And she replaced all of her income.
That's what you call listening to your customers, right?
That with her customers. And then there are other local examples. So Todd Everett Experience, he's a local DJ. He wasn't in our roundtable this morning, but he was one of our grant recipients. And he used the money we gave him to keep his employees paid. And look, his business was weddings and parties. Talk about a business that's not happening during coronavirus. In those situations, what he needed was some cash and some assistance. And we were glad to provide it. He also found a way to do business online. He created an online store and launched an online DJ academy. And so our goal is to work with small businesses in Detroit, everywhere, provide those tools, but it's really the entrepreneurs themselves. It is Regina, it is LaAsia, it is Todd who say, I am not going to let this virus, I am not going to let this economic downturn stop me. I'm going to pivot online. I'm going to find a way to keep going. And I think everyone's looking forward to the world and the economy returning to normal.
You're also bringing a training program to Detroit. Talk a little bit about that.
That's right. We get to announce this with you right now. I'm excited to do it with the Small Business Association of Michigan. We're bringing Boost with Facebook to Detroit next week or later this month. Now, at the beginning of last year, my team and I had a big meeting on what we were going to do to take our work with small business to the next level. And we had this Boost program where we traveled around to different cities and we had to set up in local offices. So we decided we were going to make it easier. We were going to get big trucks. We were going to do Boost with Facebook and drive around. And then coronavirus hit. Oh. And people were not coming into a small space that we brought with the truck. So we have pivoted this entirely online. It's totally free. On SBAM's website, you can find it. So it's facebook.com/Small Business Association of Michigan. Please go. We are providing free training, free tools to small businesses in partnership with them. And we're really excited to do it.
And hopefully we can get that link in the chat box. Also, talk to me about your advice for a small business that doesn't have a website, has no experience with digital marketing or advertising. What would you tell them?
Three things. The first thing is you need an online presence. And as I said before, a third of small businesses didn't have one, but you can set it up for free in minutes on Facebook and Instagram so your customers can find you. The second thing is, learning the basics of how to reach customers. It used to be that only big companies could afford advertising. And small companies really suffered, or they had to literally, remember the days, you and I are old enough, I think, passing out flyers.
Right.
Now, for very small amounts of money, you can target and find exactly the people interested in your products. And that is a lifeline for small businesses. And then keep iterating and learning. And in all of this, it's the creativity that matters. So I'm going to share one of my favorite. This is the Pure Detroit and Little Flower Soap Company, right? So these are some of the things I bought that I love. This is a soy candle. My guess is they sold this before coronavirus, but I'll tell you what I don't think they sold before coronavirus. This box, because this is a quarantine kit. I don't know if I can show it. It's super pretty, comes with their branding. This is a face mask. No one I know had one of these before this happened, right?
Right.
This is all natural hand sanitizer. This is beautiful hibiscus soap. I think this shows the ingenuity of entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs in Detroit. I think they were making soap before. They might have been making hand sanitizer, but they weren't packaging it up in a box as a quarantine kit. That is how small business owners pivot, decide what people need from them now, and then we can help them find those customers.
And
Great
Cheryl,
product. Congratulations to this company.
wow, yeah, talk about pivoting. And I think, Facebook, Instagram has really helped a lot of these companies survive. Let's talk a little bit more about Facebook, the privacy and digital ads. There's been a lot of discussion about that. Proposed changes by legislators and other tech companies could impact how Facebook tracks and users and targets ads to them. And I was talking to my news director. He thought it was amazing how he could search for something and then there's an ad that pops up almost immediately. Can you talk about this and how that will impact small businesses?
I'm really glad to, because this is so important. And what I want to say first is privacy is our top priority, always has been. Now, not something people always understand or we've explained very well, but our protecting the privacy of the people that use Facebook is the most important thing. If you send me a message, Vicki, that message is secure. It doesn't get shared with everyone. If you want to do a post to a small Facebook group you're in, it only stays in that group. Or if you want to do a public post, you're choosing to share it with everyone. And protecting that privacy is the most important thing. Now, with advertising, we use data in a very privacy protective way, and it is critical for small businesses. I'm going to give you an example. This morning at my roundtable, I met Ida Reyes. She's started a yoga studio in Ann Arbor. Now, how does she advertise? How does she get customers, especially in coronavirus? She shows her ad only to people who are yoga or meditation enthusiasts living in Detroit. We are using data to do that. We take that ad, we show it to those people, and we don't give her back anything. We just give her back aggregate stats. Your ad was shown 100 times, 10 people clicked. We don't give her back a single person. Now, if she can't do that, if she has to advertise to all of Detroit, she can't afford to do that. Not everyone in Detroit wants yoga and meditation experiences.
Right.
But because she could do that, and then when she pivoted online for coronavirus and started outdoor yoga classes, she could advertise and build her following. It's on us to make sure we protect people's privacy, make sure we take that ad, we show it, and we don't give her back any information. It's on us to explain how this works. But if that ability of hers goes away, it doesn't hurt the biggest gyms in the company. It doesn't hurt the biggest companies in the company, but it does hurt that local yoga studio. And so we have to make sure that we've explained personalized ads. We're actually launching a marketing campaign to try to explain it. Good ideas deserve to be found. So if you are interested in, another example in our campaign is goat yoga. Not everyone is. People do yoga with goats. You can find that and enable that personalized ad experience to happen in a very privacy protective way. I think a lot of small businesses are really worried that people are trying to do the right thing and protect privacy, but it will inadvertently not actually protect privacy and really hurt local communities.
All right, I want to try to get in a couple more questions as we run out of time, but you're known as an advocate for women and you've done research on the impact of this pandemic on women-owned businesses. Talk a little bit about that and any advice you would have for women-owned businesses or women climbing the corporate ladder.
So we're in a crisis, as I said at the beginning. It's a health crisis, it's an economic crisis, and it's a crisis for women. We just put out the next round of the Facebook U.S. State of Small Business Report, and it shows that female-led SMBs are closing at higher rates than their male counterparts. They're closing at 28%, and the male-owned SMBs are closing at 22%. And twice as many business owners say the reason they're closing is household-related reasons. So this gender divide is compounded, and that is part of why we need to support women-owned businesses, businesses owned by people of color, especially businesses owned by women who are of color, because that's where you have all the gender bias and you have all the race bias, and it comes together, and we need to make sure we are protecting and growing the businesses that matter so much.
All right, and here's a great and timely question to close it out with. It's Women's History Month. Tell us about some of the women who've inspired you and the 5 women that you're spotlighting in your gift guide. And we have the link to that gift guide in the chat box.
Yeah, so look, there's so many women that have inspired me. Certainly our new Vice President, Kamala Harris, from my home state. Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, I think, has been on everyone's mind with our loss of her. Malala, who's done so much to show that children. I go back to Gloria Steinem, who was, one of the original great feminists. But I have to tell you, the women who I met this morning in Detroit. I'm going to share one more story. Jennifer Lyle runs Lush Yummies, their pies. And it's such a good, interesting story about the importance of local business. So she makes these delicious pies. She went big. She got featured twice on Oprah's favorite things. And what that did for her is it poured the orders in from all over the country. But it turns out that those orders are great and she's happy to have them, but they're expensive to fulfill. And what she needed to make her business sustainable and profitable were local customers. So she used Facebook to find pie lovers who were local, the people who could come in, pick up, where she could sell her product without shipping. And after she ran a very targeted, privacy protected Facebook ad, the lines were around the block. And I think that comes back to where we start, right? Women who inspire us, the importance of local support, local businesses. And I think people really responded because they wanted to support a local business and because her pies are just delicious.
Excellent. And everyone, please check out the link to Cheryl's gift guide that features 5 local businesses. And Steve, I want to turn it back over to you. Cheryl, great conversation, and I appreciate the opportunity to chat with you again. Steve?
Thanks, Vicki. You're a pro's pro, and thanks to both of you for a thoughtful conversation. And now I'd like to, Cheryl, turn our attention to some audience questions that we received from DEC members. And I want to start with a question we received about social media's role in society. This comes from DEC member Rick. The last 4 years in the recent US presidential election shined a bright light on social media's role in elections and democracies. I guess Cheryl, there's so many places to go with this question. So let's ask you to comment on both truth and power when it comes to social media.
So you started with elections. I'll talk about that, and I'll talk about power, and I'll be mindful of time because this is a conversation we could have for a long time. But elections, democracy, nothing could be more serious to us, to all of us. And this was a challenging election. We've never been so polarized. And then we had a pandemic where people didn't even know how they could vote. So, I mean, it was like the perfect storm. And so what did we do? We tried to help. We learned the lessons of protecting our democracy from foreign interference, but we really also tried to help people register to vote. And we're proud of what we accomplished. We registered or helped register 4.5 million people. That's the largest efforts of its kind anywhere in the world. Last time we did 2 million for each of the last 2 elections. We put up a voter information center that 140 million Americans visited. And what that told you is state by state, here's how I vote. Am I allowed to send it in by mail? Where do I go? Answering all those questions so people could have their voice heard. On power, there is real concern about the size and the power of the tech companies, and we understand that. And we really do believe internet regulations need to be rewritten. The last time most of the laws governing us were done were 25 years ago. And that is a long time ago, and they need to be updated. At the same time, we hope people understand and think about that a lot of the tech companies that are the largest in the world are American companies. And that means we exist under American law. And that's a pretty good place to be because some of our largest competitors are in China and they exist under Chinese law. And I think it is important that we find a way to, I think, continue American leadership of the tech industry. It's been so important. Make sure that people understand and there are limits to the power we have, and make sure that we don't cede power in a way to other countries that we don't want to.
Thanks, Cheryl. Let's stick with roles of social media. What role does social media have for small businesses? What is the importance for them as compared to larger companies?
Well, obviously, we're used by and important to large companies and small, but we're much more important for small businesses. We have 200 million small businesses, I mentioned, that are using our free products around the world. And we are why so many small businesses can start, thrive, and make the pivots they need to online for coronavirus. You know, when you think about what it used to take to start a small business, you used to have to get a storefront, get a loan, raise a lot of capital. That was prohibitively hard for people. Much harder for women, much harder for minorities, even harder for women of color. This is the great equalizer. Online, anyone can do this on minutes. Now, the role of data and personalized ads is just critical for small businesses. And I think not well understood, and that's on us. But if you take away the ability to target under what I think is an untrue promise of protecting privacy, you hurt small businesses. You hurt the local yoga studio, the local pie bakery that needs to find local customers. Now, our job is to make sure we protect people's privacy and make sure we explain that well. And I don't think we've explained it well, which is part of why we're having this conversation today. And our job is to make sure that the 200 million small businesses out there can continue to thrive. I think coronavirus has been an acceleration to what is online, but that was a move that was happening. And so they say, you know, never waste a good crisis. We need to make sure that small businesses come out of this crisis, not just surviving, but stronger, having their local revenue stream, their stores back open, but also their online ability to reach customers and an ability to thrive. We're worried about unemployment in this country and world. We should be. Most people don't know this. Most job growth comes from small business, not large companies, and they are the heart of our communities.
Thanks, Cheryl. This question comes from DEC member Jackie, who I know is a huge fan of yours. So she says, we know it's been a very stressful year for many small business owners. Maybe you can share how you have dealt with and overcome stress during parts of your career.
Look, it's been a hard year for everyone. I think there aren't families out there that haven't been touched with this. Very early on in the virus, my fiance's first cousin passed away of coronavirus. And, you know, for us, it was obviously a shocking loss. It was very early. It was early April last year. But, you know, you couldn't even get together to mourn. And so we had to find other ways of reaching out. And on a work point of view, we had to send everyone home. And we were able to send everyone home. And we took that very seriously. We've tried to deal with that by being a company that helps, you know, hundreds of millions of dollars in grants to small businesses as we talk, but also really taking care of our employees, letting people work from home, giving people additional leave, coronavirus leave, additional money. Business has to do its part. We have to do our part to protect our employees and the small businesses who depend on us.
Thanks, Cheryl. And let's wrap this up on something positive. We got about 30 seconds left. I'm going to ask you to leave us with something that gives you hope for small businesses as we think we finally see a light at the end of this pandemic.
This morning, the 9 businesses and nonprofits I met with from Detroit, I shared some of the stories. I'll share 2 more really quickly. An amazing woman named Jenny Brown. She started a nonprofit called Everybody. She had a sister with Down syndrome. I learned from her that unemployment rates for people with those kind of challenges are above 85%. She started a local business and nonprofit to help people like her sister be gainfully employed. And then this amazing woman named Mia Reed, she lost her only son to gun violence when he was just 24 years old. And what did she do with that? She started something called Change Happens, and she is helping so many people locally. I am given hope by the women and the man, but the women and the man I met with this morning. I'm given hope by the fact that we are hopefully going to help more businesses with Boost in Detroit. And I'm given hope by the fact that even when we can't be together and on person like we're supposed to, we're all together here thinking about what we can do for the communities of which we're a part. I am so grateful you let me pop into Detroit this morning, at least virtually.
Well, Cheryl, a huge, huge thank you for spending time with the DEC. We wish you the best. Let us know if we can be helpful here in Detroit, and we look forward to hosting you in person soon.
Thank you.
And a special thanks to Vicki Thomas. Once again, it's always great to see you, Vicki, and thanks
Great
for
to see you, Steve.
Thank you, Vicki. Thank you,
Cheryl.
Steve.
Can't wait to meet you in person.
Me too. Thank you for having us today, Steve. I so appreciate it.
You're so welcome. The pleasure was ours. And thank you to Cheryl's team, who has been terrific to work with, and locally to Ron Fournier from Truscott Russman. And thanks to my team and for all of you for continuing to support the DEC. Your membership is very important to us. Have a strong week. Keep the faith. Hope to see you March 25th when we host ESPN's Joe Lunardi. Goodbye, everybody.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you, everyone.